San Francisco. Some call it the city, others call it Frisco. Regardless, it's a place where the fog rolls, the hills go up and down, and every block has its own flavor. But behind the postcard views, there's a deeper story, especially for Black folks who have called this place home for generations. This is their story, and the city's too. When you look past the cable cars and fancy tech offices, you find a city built on struggle, hope, and the fight to belong. For African Americans in San Francisco, every generation has faced its own battles and has left its own mark. This film is about those battles, those dreams, and what it really means to call this city home. Long before tech bros and tourists, Black pioneers were making their mark on San Francisco. Some came with the Spanish, others during the gold rush looking for freedom and opportunity. They built churches, started businesses, and fought for their rights. Even when the odds were stacked against them, their courage planted seeds for the future. People like William Liesenhoff, one of the city's first Black millionaires, and Mary Ann Pleasant, who used her fortune to fight for justice, showed that Black folks could thrive here, even when the law said otherwise. Their stories are reminders of the roots of Black San Franciscans run deep and that every brick in the city has a story behind it. When you're new in town and the world's not always friendly, you lean on your own. Black San Franciscans built their own churches, schools, and social clubs. These places weren't just about worship or learning, they were safe havens, places to organize, to celebrate, and to support each other when times got tough. From the African American Methodist Episcopal Church and the Prince Hall Masons, these institutions became the backbone of the community. They offered everything from job help to a place to mourn and celebrate. In a city that often shut its doors, these places kept hope alive and gave Black families a sense of belonging. World War II brought a tidal wave of change. Thousands of Black families packed up from the South chasing good paying shipyard jobs and a shot at something better. San Francisco's Black population exploded almost overnight, bringing new energy, new sounds, and new dreams to the city. The promise of steady work drew people from Louisiana, Texas, and Mississippi. They brought their music, their food, their faith, transforming neighborhoods and adding new layers to the city's culture. But moving west didn't leave racism behind. It just meant facing it in new ways. The Fillmore district became the beating heart of Black San Francisco. Jazz clubs lit up the night, Black owned businesses lined the street, and the community thrived. It was a place where you could hear Billie Holiday one night and eat the best soul food the next. For a while, it felt like anything was possible. The Fillmore wasn't just about entertainment, it was about pride, self reliance, and showing the world that Black excellence looked like. Families built lives here. Kids grew up surrounded by music and culture, and there was a sense that this was a place where dreams could take root and grow. But even in a city known for being open minded, racism was real. Black families got steered into certain neighborhoods, denied loans, and turned away from jobs and hotels. The fight for equality wasn't just in the South, it was right here in the so called liberal West. Redlining kept Black communities from building wealth, and gentlemen's agreements kept them out of certain parts of town. Even when folks found work, it was often the hardest, dirtiest jobs. Through it all, the community stuck together, turning struggle into strength. The 1960s and 70s were a time of protest and pride. Young people marched, chanted, and sometimes clashed with police. Groups like the Black Panthers made headlines, but there were also quieter heroes teachers, preachers, parents working to build a better future from the ground up. The spirit of times was electric. People demanded change in school, in housing, and in the streets. The Panthers ran food programs and health clinics, showing what real community care looked like. Even when the news focused on violence, the real story was about hope and the fight for justice. Then came urban renewal. The city said it was about progress, but for the black community, it meant bulldozing and broken promises. Whole blocks of Fillmore were wiped out. Families were forced to move, businesses disappeared, and a once thriving community was scattered to the wind. The city promised new housing and better opportunities, but too often those promises fell flat. People who lived in their housing for decades found themselves with nowhere to go. The scars of urban renewal are still visible today: empty lots, lost history, and a community that's still trying to heal. As rent soared and new money poured in, black families got pushed out of their neighborhoods they built. Gentrification wasn't just about buildings, it was about losing history, culture, and a sense of belonging. The city started to feel less and less like home for many who had been there the longest. Tech companies moved in, and suddenly the cost of living shot through the roof. Long term residents watched as their favorite shops closed and new faces took over the block. For many, leaving wasn't a choice, it was a matter of survival. The city they loved was slipping away. With the Fillmore gutted, Bayview Hunters Point became the main hub for Black San Franciscans. But it wasn't easy. The area faced pollution, lack of investment, and a reputation for violence. Still, families hung on, determined to keep the community alive against all odds. Bayview wasn't just a place to live, it was a place to fight for. Residents organized for better schools, cleaner air, and safer streets. Churches and community centers became lifelines, and neighborhoods looked out for each other. Even with all the changes, there was a stubborn pride in holding on. When opportunity dries up and hope gets thin, something else moves in. Gangs started to fill the vacuum left by broken systems and lost jobs. They offered protection and belonging, but also brought pain, violence, fear, and more division. The promise of brotherhood too often turned into heartbreak. For some young people, joining a gang felt like the only way to survive. But the violence tore families apart and made it even harder for community to come together. The cycle of pain and loss was hard to break, and the city didn't always step in to help. Imagine if the black community in San Francisco has something like the Torah, a shared set of values, rules, and rituals to hold everyone together. Maybe the fights over leadership wouldn't have split folks apart. Maybe there would be more unity and less room for gangs and outside forces to take over. It's not about copying someone else's faith, but learning from the power of structure. When people know what they stand for and how to solve problems together, they're harder to break. Maybe that's what's been missing, a foundation that's strong enough to stand the test of time. Even without the blueprint, Black San Franciscans have always leaned on faith and family. Churches, mosques, community centers have been lifelines. Through every setback, people found ways to survive, adapt, and keep hope alive, passing down strength from one generation to the next. Family reunions, Sunday dinners, and church picnics keep bonds tight. When the city turned its back, folks turned to each other. That resilience is the heartbeat of the community and a reminder that even when everything else fails and falls apart, love and faith can hold you together. The Torah should be the foundation of every society if it wants to strive and ensure that things go right for the next generation.